This episode of Recording Studio Rockstars is brought to you by iZotope, Native Instruments, SAE Institute, Atom Audio, Spectra 1964, and Picker. In fact, you're hearing my voice right now recorded through a Spectra 1964 STX 100 mic pre and mixed with iZotope, Ozone, and RX on Atom Audio monitors and headphones. Grab my free mixing course at Mixmaster Bundle with the link in the show notes below. And please make sure to visit our fantastic sponsors also in the show notes and like and subscribe to our YouTube channel because it's a great way to help support this show. Now get ready to rock.
So EchoThief is a library of reverberation that I've captured from real spaces around North America. While I was at Stanford, I had the opportunity to work with one of the coolest dudes I've ever met, Dr. John Abel. He taught me how to take impulse responses. Basic idea is, clap, that's an impulse. When you send that into a space and record what comes back, that's the impulse response, the response of a space to an impulse. So if you have an impulse response, you can drop it into a Convolution reverb plugin, of which every DAW has one. You can make any sound seem like it happened in the space that you've measured. And so what this means is I have a backpack, carry all this gear that I need to take these impulse responses. I can take this to wherever I can find an interesting sonic space, a place that really folds sound nicely, sounds beautiful to my ears. And I can capture that and put it in the library so it's usable by anyone who wants to relocate sound.
Welcome to Recording Studio Rockstars. I'm Lid Shaw, and this is the podcast created to help you become a rock star of the recording studio. Rockstars, if you want the ultimate toolkit for your music, check out Complete 15 from Native Instruments. With 165 instruments and over 150,000 sounds to choose from, it is the most powerful creative tool in your studio. From Contact 8 to Massive X, Battery, and Guitar Rig 7 Pro, you've got everything you need to create in any genre. Pair that with Native Instruments control keyboards and machine hardware, and you get next-level integration that makes music creation fun, fast, and seamless. Head on over to nativeinstruments.com and use the code ROCK10 for 10% off. Howdy, Rockstars. It's your host, Lid Shaw. Welcome back to Recording Studio Rockstars, bringing you into the studio to learn from recording professionals so that you can make your best record ever and be a rock star of the studio yourself. My guest today is Dr. Chris Warren, a sound designer, digital composer, and creative of immersive sonic installations. His exhibits have been featured at the Museum of Making Music, the Fleet Science Center, and NAMM. Dr. Warren's extensive research in acoustic measurement has produced EchoThief, a library of beautiful reverberation from around North America. These sonic snapshots of distinctive spaces have been featured in video games like Sony's Days Gone, Bethesda's Wolfenstein 2, museum exhibits, sonic software, and artistic work around the globe. Dr. Warren teaches digital music composition and sound design at San Diego State University. Thank you to Susan Clausen for making our introduction. Please welcome Dr. Chris Warren to Recording Studio Rockstars. Chris, are you ready to rock, my friend?
Absolutely, Lidge. Let's do this.
It's great to meet you, and it's great to have you here on the show with us, man. Tell us where you're joining us from right now.
So I am here at the School of Music and Dance in San Diego State University, and here I run the program in music recording technology and audio design, and I run our sound lab, which is a beautiful vessel that we newly created specifically to do immersive research in reverberation. It is quite the facility, a Atmos certified 8.1.4 immersive sound system that we use to create reverb virtually around us.
That's amazing. I got a lot of questions. I'm very excited to jump into this and talk about it. We talk about Atmos a lot on the show with guests that are doing it and mixing. I try to go out of my way to explain a little bit about how you can, if sometimes people hear the word and they're a little bit familiar with it, but they don't really understand, like, well, how do I even know if I'm hearing it, stuff like that. So, you're welcome to bring that stuff up too. But what's exciting is that the experience of immersive sound can be so cool sounding, and hearing that you're focusing on the reverb I got questions going off in my head. So give us a little bit of background on you too. Give us the short arc of what you're interested in. How'd you get started in interest in music or audio, and how did you end up where you are now making these cool immersive reverbs?
All right, so I'm going to date myself here, but when I was a little kid, my parents gave me a little cassette deck, and it was the kind that has a little pop-up door, and being a little kid, the first thing I did was accidentally knock the door off. Oops.
Panasonic?
Yeah, I probably. Yeah, just a little flat guy with the big buttons.
With the slide-out handle?
Yep, that's the one. So having knocked the door off of this thing, I could actually reach in and touch the tape, and I realized that I could press on the little reels as they spin and be able to slow it down. And
Nice.
that immediately opened up a world of sound for me. So from that, became a musician, guitar player, bass player, played in a billion bands, did that whole thing, and went to school, became an audio engineer, opened up a recording studio in Rhode Island, and did a whole bunch of mixing for years and years and years. And eventually I got really curious what goes on inside all these fascinating little black boxes. So I decided I should go see what's going on here. So I had the opportunity to go to the most fascinating school, this place called the Center for Computer Research in Music and Center for Computer Research in Music and Acoustics. Ooh,
Can I ask also where did you do your audio school? Were you like at Berkeley in Boston?
Oh, no.
I
I went to composition school, but I went to this place, Brandeis, just outside of Boston. And,
right on.
Yeah, not known for audio engineering at all, but there was an electronic music studio, and they let me take it apart and put it back together several times.
Nice. So you were like dealing with old analog synths and.
Oh yeah, there's a Buchla 100 there. Ooh yeah.
Ooh, nice.
The
nice.
real deal. So this got me interested in wires and everything, and I ended up at Stanford doing this master's program in music and acoustics, which then led me to UCSD, where I did a PhD, and then I came over here to San Diego State, and I've been teaching here ever since, teaching in our music recording technology and audio design program.
So how long have you been in San Diego? Like, are we talking decades at this point?
Oh, about 15, 16 years at this point.
Right on. Yeah, I'm a New Englander originally before coming down to Nashville, Tennessee. So I grew up in Massachusetts, and I always say, I left there in pursuit of music, but it's only once I started this podcast that I started discovering that I was sitting in a hub of music all along up around the Boston area. Well, that's pretty cool. So.
Yeah, I went to Newton North High School.
Oh, nice. Right on.
This is where I found Echo Bridge, which was one of the first inspirations for this whole EchoThief thing. But I'll tell you more about that later.
Yeah, we'll dive into that for sure. So you landed out on the West Coast, and you're teaching out there. You went straight from operating a studio right into teaching?
No, grad school. Master's at Stanford. PhD at UCSD, and I never intended to become a professor, but here we are.
And you said the PhD was in computers? Is that right?
This is computer music. I got to study with the brilliant Dr. Miller Puckett, the author of the Max MSP programming language, Pure Data programming language, two of the most broadly used languages for audio experimentation across the globe.
Wow, that's pretty wild, man. I like your enthusiasm too. It's infectious. We can hear you're like really into this stuff. So
I'm an audio nerd. What can I say?
Well, so like, how do you explain what that is to somebody who just sort of like, I understand plugging a guitar and a pedal into an amp, and I understand synths sound cool, but like when you dive into that, deeper level of computer music and creating sounds digitally using these languages. How would you explain that, or how's that similar or different to what we're familiar with?
So, coming from a background of being a guitar player, it's actually pretty straightforward because, as guitar players, we plug a guitar into a pedal, into another pedal, into another pedal. So we understand the idea of a nice signal chain going from unit to unit. And the whole Max programming language is sort of built on the same paradigm. It's a node-based language where you have these objects that are connected with cables. So it's incredibly approachable. It's not anything like programming in C++ or Java or anything like that. It's really immediate because it is an interpreted language rather than a compiled language. Compiled languages, you type a bunch of code, press compile, go eat a sandwich, come back, there's an executable.
Right.
Nah.
Like when I was learning BASIC.
Exactly.
And making games.
So
sort of.
With these interpreted languages, you can listen as you code. So you can leverage all of the knowledge that you have as a musician to inform what you're making. So you can bring in some audio from, say, a microphone and start playing with it. Oh, what does it sound like if I put it through this filter, through that filter? Let's get a delay out. And it's such an immediate thing. It really is improvisation in code.
And I think I first learned about Max for Live when I was learning Ableton.
Absolutely.
Does it come from Ableton, or did they just incorporate it in?
Oh, here's a funny story. Ableton was originally prototyped using Max. Max is really quick. It's immediate. You can build things in moments. I mean, I don't think I've ever landed on a flight without having something that I've already completed just from sitting on an airplane for a couple hours. It's really quick. It's just the sort of thing that you can take your ideas and translate them into code very, very swiftly. And so Max was originally developed by Miller Puckett in the late 80s at IRCAM in Paris, and was broadly used as a standalone by itself. But then now Ableton has kind of come full circle and incorporated it back into Ableton. Now Ableton, the actual Ableton wasn't written in Max. It's, I think, C#. But you can use Max inside of Ableton, which is wonderful because then you have all the power of a DAW that you can leverage. So you don't have to reinvent the universe from scratch. You can just reinvent your little corner of it. Hey, how about a little plugin?
Right.
So what I love about Max is I can teach this to my students and they can immediately take what they're thinking about and turn it into software. And so whatever the missing link is in their whole artistic practice, oh man, I wish I had something that did X. Well, they can make it happen.
That's wild. So you could make an instrument that creates sounds that's playable. You could make something that just sort of makes sounds on its own. You can make a plugin that processes audio.
Absolutely. You can make generative things that'll do their own thing and make music automatically. You can make plugins. You can make synthesizers, drum machines, sequencers. It's incredibly flexible. If you can dream it, you can make it.
All right. Well, let's jump from there a little bit to the topic, from your introduction about creating immersive sort of art installations or anything like that. That's something that you've had experience with too. And is this? Am I asking the right follow-up question to the Max thing?
Yeah. So I right down the street from here, up in Carlsbad, about half an hour north from here, is a lovely place called the Museum of Making Music. This is NAMM's headquarters, and it is a fascinating museum that takes you step by step through the development of musical instruments in America. And it is such a wonderful place that it lets you touch a lot of these instruments and play with them. It shows you instruments you've never seen before, and it really connects the dots and shows you this evolution of all these instruments and the way that people play them. And
this is in San Diego?
This is in Carlsbad, California, just north of here.
Oh, okay. It's like okay. And that's in, so apologies to me, when I go out to NAMM, I go to Anaheim, and I think San Diego's south of there, right? So this
Yes,
is
indeed.
this
So
is something in between.
NAMM,
I
the
agree.
trade show, exists in Anaheim, and the headquarters is in Carlsbad, and this is basically the ground floor of their headquarters. This is their beautiful showroom. And
Sounds like a place I need to visit.
oh, absolutely. It is life-changing. I can't even tell you how many times I've been to this museum and taken my students there. And so I've built several exhibits for them. We did an exhibit called Low, the Power and Beauty of Bass, where we focused on all sorts of low bass instruments. We did the Summer of Innovation, where we got into all of like what's the newest, hottest. And in 2019, 2020, we did this really huge exhibit on synthesizers. And the idea of this exhibit is we wanted to not just show people synthesizers, but we wanted to show people synthesis and let them synthesize sounds without having to really understand all the nuts and bolts of how things work. So this was an exhibit where you could take this little token with you that identified you from station to station. And you go to the first station, and it talks a little bit about the harmonics, how the harmonic recipe gives a sound its timbre. And so you can use all these sliders to move the harmonics to something you like. And then you take that with you to the next station, and you start working with filters to shape this a little bit more. And the next station, modulation to make it move a little bit, and into reverberation to give it some depth.
And you're carrying this physical object with you.
Yeah, and when you take it to the last...
remembers the last thing you just did?
Absolutely. And,
cool idea.
At the very end of this, you plug this in, and there's a guitar, a keyboard, and Ableton Push, all these instruments that you can take the timbre that you've created yourself and perform with it on whatever instrument you're most comfortable with.
That's great.
We put this in the museum, and then later we took it actually to NAMM 2020, and it was a huge centerpiece of that whole show. It was amazing.
How many people make fart instruments show up and play that? I feel like that would probably happen here a few times, right?
Undoubtedly.
Undoubtedly. That's cool, and it reminds me of all these. I've always been fascinated by synthesis too, and I did take synth classes in college, as well as my first recording classes. And learned on an API 2500 and a 2600 and all these fun things. But my interest in it has introduced me to these cool things that I've never had a chance to play with. I remember there was a guy years ago who did something called, I think it was called the Octamasher or something, which was a kiosk station with those little Oxygen 8 pads in a circle, and everybody would go up, and you wouldn't create a timbre necessarily. It might have preloaded things, but it sort of synced everybody up so they could all play, and they'd be doing a mashup remix by playing things, fun stuff like that. And I remember seeing synthesizers that were almost like computer screen graphic round tabletops that people would put these objects on, and then you twist and turn them, and you see like lights connecting the different modules.
Yes. Like Bjork had on tour, the little fiducials.
There you go.
The React table. Yeah.
React table. Yeah, what a good name. That's a no-brainer, isn't it?
Yeah. So, okay, this is the dumbest thing, but I got to tell you.
Do it.
So these fiducials, they're like little QR code sort of things, right? And they're on the bottom side of the block. So these things go sit on an illuminated table that has a camera underneath that's reading these. And so as you move them around, they're knobs, they're sliders. It's very interactive. And so early on in my grad school odyssey, I had the stupid idea of taking these fiducials and making temporary tattoos and putting them on my palms so that I could just basically do this in front of a laptop and make my own silly theremin.
Well, I did mention that your commitment, enthusiasm, were we can see it. We can see it. So yeah, I can see how you might want to do that. That'd be hilarious. I guess later you'd be like, why didn't I tattoo Bluetooth receivers on my hands, or something? Because I'm guessing the tech has changed already.
Oh yeah. But fortunately, those temporary tattoos, couple weeks and they're gone.
Well, that's groovy. All right. Well, so let's see. So we got the Museum of Making Music right there. Carlsbad, you said, like the beer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or was the beer Carlsberg? Never mind. Don't go on a tangent, Lidge. And then, when you do these installations too, so the one that you just described with the module, that was one of the ones that you created?
Yeah, Dr. Jonathan Piper at the Museum of Making Music and I collaborated to design this whole thing.
That's really wild. Now, with regards to the reverb, so EchoThief is sort of what introduced us together. Maybe it's time for me to just jump right into the
it's my
question
baby.
of what is EchoThief and what do we need to know about it?
So EchoThief is a library of reverberation that I've captured from real spaces around North America. While I was at Stanford, I had the opportunity to work with one of the coolest dudes I've ever met, Dr. John Abel. He was formerly the chief scientist of Universal Audio, so you're definitely familiar with his work.
Okay.
And he taught me how to take impulse responses, which for anyone who doesn't work with these, basic idea is, clap, something like that. That's an impulse. And when you send that into a space and record what comes back, that's the impulse response, the response of a space to an impulse. And so if you have an impulse response, you can drop it into a Convolution reverb plugin, of which every DAW has one. And you can basically make any sound seem like it happened in the space that you've measured. And so what this means is I have a backpack that I carry all this gear that I need to take these impulse responses. It's a little more complex than just a clap to get a really high resolution one. Mm-hmm. But I can take this to wherever I can find an interesting sonic space, a place that really folds sound nicely, that sounds beautiful to my ears. And I can capture that and put it in the library so it's usable by anyone who wants to relocate sound. And while I love all reverb plugins, they're all fascinating. There's something special about Convolution and using impulse responses because they're very informationally dense. They're really telling you a lot about the spaces. Your nervous system feels like, oh, I am in this room. I am in the place that this impulse response measured. And so it's a wonderful way to relocate sounds. I mean, we've all done home recordings where, it's me playing my guitar in my living room and it sounds like I'm in my living room. And here's an opportunity to not just smear it in time, but really give it a sense of space.
Rockstars, are you ready to unlock the full potential of your mixes and masters? Then you need iZotope Ozone 12. This complete tool set gives you 20 pro modules, including the new bass control, unlimiter, and stem EQ, plus the IRC5 maximizer for loud, clean mixes and masters without distortion, including the new mastering assistant that guides, not decides, so you are always in control. Go to iZotope.com and use the code ROCK10 for 10% off. Well, what's cool about reverbs, of course, is as a musician, is you discover, I remember going to college and looking for a place to play guitar with my friend in the dorm. And then we find ourselves in the stairwell. And then you have this holy shit moment where you're like, this sounds amazing. I actually got in trouble for that because not everybody in the building apparently wanted to hear me play music. But I'm like, you know what? This sounds too good to care.
In high school, me and my bestie Jorge used to just hang around and play in the stairwell and wonder, why does it sound so good in here? What makes this sound so great? And little did I know.
Yeah. And then, of course, you get these great stories like Led Zeppelin, when the levee breaks and, why did those drums sound great, And then discover room mics in the studio, and you discover compression on room mics, and then your mind is blown. And so I guess to my point too is like understanding as a musician that like, it's one thing to just add reverbs and spaces when you're thinking like a mixer. You're like, oh, let me just put this sound in a different space and see what it does. Maybe it becomes something where you're trying to make the sound sound like they're in a space together, or that they, sound further, set them back in the image, or the depth of field, or maybe you're trying to do something that's compositionally a reverb choice, where you're trying to, add a big length to a sound to make it speak longer musically. But also like when you're performing, there's stuff that you do when you're performing differently when you have your voice or your instrument is in reverb. People have said that anechoic chambers are really cool sounding, but apparently it's very hard for a string player to play in tune in an anechoic chamber, because I think they don't have enough maybe length to the note or something to give a pitch reference to find the pitch of the note easily.
Oh yeah. So over here at our sound lab, this is a 21 decibel room. So it is quiet. It is approximately a 6-meter cube that's slightly offset, so there are no parallel surfaces. And each corner has floor to ceiling a giant bass trap to absorb low frequencies. So when you walk in here, you hear nothing.
Right. Well, cubes are sort of notably not usually the best spaces for because all the nodes pile up on each other. But if you got those big bass traps, and 6 meters is big too, right?
Yeah. So we did some clever offsetting to make sure that there's no parallel surfaces. Even the ceiling is slanted by I think 3 degrees. And so there are no standing waves in this, and the interior is completely covered in 4 to 8 inches of rock wool to completely absorb this. The floor is cork, and this is a concrete box inside a concrete box with an air gap in between. It has a floated floor over its own foundation, so it doesn't even share a foundation with another building. So even though there's a venue on one side, there's a stadium on the other side, and get this, a subway that goes underneath. You can hear none of this. And when people walk in, the first thing they say, their eyes get really big, because, it's like someone just turned their ears off. And, when you walk in, the first thing you notice is that all of the sounds that are normally far in the background become super foregrounded. Like the sound of yourself breathing or swallowing. You can hear your eyes blink. And you can hear a little rumble that is the blood flowing through your ears.
Yeah. And then until you get to be 57, and I hear that when I'm sleeping sometimes, and I'm like, I just want to go back to sleep. But and I've been in one anechoic chamber here at Vanderbilt University once. Went in with Mark Rubel, took a class trip in there, and it was pretty amazing to see it. You're not in an anechoic chamber, but that's a very, very, it's a similar thing. You just hear everything, You also have to walk on a floor made of a wire mesh, so that's a little freaky. No dogs allowed, right?
Oh, once while I was a grad student, I had a chance to go into what I think is the largest anechoic chamber in the world. This is, General Motors has this up in somewhere in Michigan, north of Detroit. And so they do what's called noise vibration harshness testing for cars, which is basically seeing what the what sounds the car is making between wind sound and tire sound and engine noise and everything. And they can't just test this on a treadmill. So they have an anechoic chamber with a car track inside.
Wow, and the car can drive around, and then
it's the size of a football
It's
field.
the only thing generating sound, in other words.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Freaky. It's like being in outer space.
So wait, how big is the track?
Oh, the size of a football field.
Holy, wow. That's pretty cool. All right, well, let's see. Where do we go from there? There's so many cool things I want to that makes me think of. First of all, we were talking about, wanting to perform with reverb, and I believe isn't that a little bit of the backstory on EchoThief too? Didn't you get contacted by some students who wanted to be able to sing? I feel like I saw that in a video you did where they needed space and they were stuck at home or something like that.
This all happened during COVID. So I'd already published the library. It was out there. And because the method that I've created for making impulse responses is particularly noise resistant, I can do this outdoors. And so most of the spaces that I've captured are outdoor spaces, underpasses, caves, tunnels, interesting spaces that are either natural or man-made, but are outdoors and are noisy, places that you couldn't actually have a concert because it's right by the ocean or right by the highway. I mean,
and so you're saying that places like that, traditionally, you wouldn't have been able to get an impulse response?
Yeah, the traditional way of doing an impulse response is either popping a balloon and recording what comes back, which means you're also getting all the noise, or a slightly more noise-resistant way is doing the old sine sweep, which takes basically takes an impulse and stretches it in time by going low to high. But these are still very easily corrupted by noise. And so most impulse response libraries are of the spaces that are particularly quiet. Concert halls, churches, recording studios, that's pretty much it. So I had focused mostly on outdoor spaces. But when COVID hit, I have a whole bunch of colleagues here who are opera singers. And the opera hall is part of their instrument. They can't just do this at home. This doesn't work. And so we made a headphone plug-in version of EchoThief that I went and grabbed as many concert halls and churches and just really big, epic opera spaces and made it so that people could just pop on some headphones and sing into these virtually while we were all stuck at home.
That's pretty wild. So this was something that integrated directly with headphones, or it was more like a plug-in that you could use that would then, your mic going into a DAW would sort of go through something and basically then end up in your headphones?
We took the whole DAW and plug-in and everything and just collapsed it down into a single standalone so that it required no technical knowledge, understanding that, opera singers are not audio engineers typically.
Right, and I need to remember I'm talking to a guy who can just make something if he wants it in the computer. You don't have to use all the same stuff we do necessarily. Well, that's pretty cool. Well, let me do a screen share too, and we'll show it off just a little bit and see. Let's see if it'll behave here. This is my attempt at high tech. So here is the EchoThief website, right? Let me know if you can see that as well.
Yes, indeed.
Groovy. And I guess these are pictures of outdoor spaces that you've been to.
Yeah, so here are some of my favorite spaces. So this first one at the top, this is the domes in Casa Grande here.
The very top, or should I go down one?
Oh, yeah, this one right here. Yeah.
Casa Grande down, screwy.
So basically, some early competitor of Apple was going to make a manufacturing plant here, so they made a bunch of concrete bubble domes, immediately went out of business. They've been sitting in the desert, falling down ever since. But domes are wonderful because of this sort of hemispherical shape. They focus sound all towards that center spot. So if you set up the microphone in the middle, you're going to get all the energy focused right upon it. So even though half of this dome was collapsed at the time I captured it, still able to get such a vibrant, huge ring of reverb. Outstanding.
Are you able to capture the graffiti while you're there somehow? I see we got photos of it.
Had to do photos for that. And all of these things have fallen down since. This actually fell down right after I measured it. So, oops.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What a trip. And it's got holes in it and all this stuff. That's pretty wild. Absolutely. I feel like you're going to see skateboarders in there. So then, this is great. Didn't I just see this in the Star Wars remake when Luke Skywalker was like trapped on an island?
I believe it. These things are really hard to get to because these are up in the mountains above Death Valley. So people, when you think of Death Valley, you're thinking of the actual valley and the cracked mud down there, and all those beautiful photos that people have taken. But way, way up in the mountains, over a mile above that, are these old charcoal kilns, these limestone furnaces that were created about 150, 160 years ago. And they were made to make charcoal for some smelting in the mines down the hill. But then a new method came along. They didn't need charcoal anymore. So these things were abandoned like a year or two after they were made. And because they're so remote, they're still standing. No one's messed with them. And again, they're round, so they really focus sound.
That's wild. And then what do we got here? Then we got caves.
Oh, yeah. So apparently when a big pool of lava cools, it creates some bubbles inside. And this subway cave lava tube, it actually looks like a subway. It has like a rounded top. It really looks incredibly purposeful, like it was built that way, but this is a natural formation. And most of the time, we don't know that these things exist because they're bubbles far, far underground. But in this case, you can see where the light is there. There was a partial collapse. And so there are stairs. You can walk right down into this thing. It is 47 degrees in there year round. And
wow.
It is darker than dark. The sand that you're walking on feels like moon sand. And when you walk in about a quarter mile through the darkest darkness, you get to this giant resonant chamber called the sanctum that is just one of those huge bubbles underground. And so imagine this bubble that then has a tube going a quarter mile in each direction. So, it's like being in a giant dome with connected hallways. So, I mean, reverb forever and ever and ever.
That's awesome. I love it. I like your storytelling to describe it too. It's great for the audio podcast listeners. Well. And then we get some outdoor stuff like Castillo de los Tres Reyes del Moro.
Yeah, the Three Kings. So I went to Havana to be part of the Biennale. There's a big arts festival that happens there, and some friends and I did a piece, and we had it in the festival. And while I was there, I brought the backpack and wandered around to find where the good reverb is. And, as always, I talk to musicians, and musicians always know where the good spots are. Like you said, you know where you want to practice. You know where has that great reverb. And so people talked about this one little landing on this castle. And it's surrounded by these big masonry walls that are just, they send this like really growly echo back. And so this one's great for like guitar solos. It makes them sound very brash and bright. And in this photo, you can see in the ocean there's Havana in the distance. And
that's beautiful.
What I didn't know was that all these castles were built. I guess Havana was sort of the New World center for the Spanish colonies, and this was the bank essentially. So they built these heavy walls to be as impenetrable as possible. And so this masonry just throws sound right back at you like a mirror.
That's wild. And now I noticed that the photographs have this kind of fisheye quality. That is how do you describe that kind of image? And is that designed for a certain way of viewing while you're listening to the space or anything like that?
So basically, at the time, I was just using an iPhone app that lets you take a full sphere panorama. Because I wanted to be able to catalog not just the geometry, but all of the surfaces in every direction. And so these were initially meant as just my own personal record, so I could keep track of what sort of materials are there, what the shapes are. But it turns out that they're a pretty good representation of what the space is.
Dreaming of a career in audio or the entertainment business? SAE Institute Nashville, in the heart of Music Row, offers hands-on programs where you'll learn on professional-grade gear with industry pros, learning through real projects, not just lectures. Explore studio production, live sound, audio for film, and a whole lot more. Or take the entertainment business program to learn about contracts, promotion, and more. With diploma, associate, and bachelor's programs, there's a path for you. Book a tour today at nashville.sae.edu or call 615-244-5848. Yeah, and now, of course, we have, we're entering a world of VR and I think the new Apple Visions and photos, you'll be able to essentially take pictures where you can look around in a space.
So nowadays I just use an Insta360 and one button and it takes the same photo.
There you go. That's awesome. Okay, now we've got the Black Widow torpedo room.
Okay. Calling this reverb is a bit disingenuous. This is reverb, but this is the shortest, driest reverb. I swear it makes things sound even less reverberant than what you put in.
That's
because
wild.
Submarines are obviously have a pretty good reason to stay quiet and to dampen sound. So although you see a lot of metal and strange formations here, this doesn't look anything like an anechoic chamber. It is very, very quiet. So this is a Russian sub that it served in the Soviet Navy for I think 20, 30 years. So I was able to go into the aft torpedo room and capture this. And much like the Casa Grande domes, this does not exist anymore. It's at the bottom of the ocean somewhere.
Wow. And but that was in San Diego. I see that it was launched on my birthday.
Hey,
just gave that away. Soviet Navy. Wow, what a trip. And then, okay, now here we have Echo Bridge. And I feel like this, you mentioned this earlier.
This is where it all started. So I went to high school at Newton North in Newton, Massachusetts, outside of Boston. And I was a musician, so I hung out with the other musicians. And a good friend of mine.
What were you guys doing under bridges, by the way?
Playing music.
Yeah, that was it. That's all we were doing. I promise.
So my friend Pete tells me about this magic place, Echo Bridge. And Echo Bridge is a parabolic arch. And parabolas are magical for sound because they really help preserve it. So even though this is just a little slice with open air on either side, the amount of energy that sticks around under this bridge, bouncing back and forth, is amazing. You'll get 13 discrete echoes on this.
Wow.
That you can hear with your ears standing on this platform. So my friends and I, we'd go down there and just sing and sing and sing.
That's really cool. We have some great echoes in Nashville. One of them is at the Tennessee State Museum, and it's in the rotunda.
Ooh.
And when you go up to the second floor and you sing, you actually hear, it sounds like a dub echo. So you hear like, doon, 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 doon. And it keeps going. It's really wild. And I keep thinking, like, who's gonna do the YouTube, series from, we're in Music City. I guess it's me. I guess if I'm talking about it, it should be
it's
me.
You.
Right?
It's you.
It's me. And then not far from there, just outside, there is a spot where it's, oh my goodness, what do you call it? It's the keyboard that is in the building that plays these bells in a series of bell towers. Carillon, thank you. And so there's a carillon there with fluted columns bringing the bells up high in a circle. So if you stand right on the metal dot in the center of it and you talk, you sound like it's like an Elvis slap right back at you because each column is echoing your voice back. And so it seems to me that like your impulse response would be able to measure stuff like that, no problem, right?
Absolutely.
And I got more questions about that. So let me pause the screen share and I'll come back to it in a moment. But then I also think about a place like St. Louis, the Union Station there has, and when you mentioned an arch in the bridge, there's an arch on the way into the station. I learned this because I was in architecture up there, architect student. And if you're on one side of the arch and somebody goes onto the other side and you turn your backs to each other and somebody whispers into the wall facing away from you in a loud, by the street outside, you can hear them clear as a bell, like they're whispering right into your face because the sound travels up and over the arch, I guess, and then comes right to them and stuff.
The magic of parabolas.
Yeah, so that's really wild. So now, is that something that qualifies as an impulse response you can capture, or is that a sort of a different thing?
Oh, if you can hear it, you can capture it. And so actually, there are two places that I got a chance to visit that really inspired this whole project from the beginning. As I was working on my PhD, I had the opportunity to go travel to first to Fort Worden up on the Olympic Peninsula in Washington. This is a coastal artillery battery that has since been abandoned and turned into a state park. And so it has all these huge underground, giant concrete rooms. And they're all like weird hexagons and things, like strange shapes. And underground concrete is like that's gold to me because you have things that are built into the bedrock that are as rigid as possible. And so you get very long, very pronounced reverbs. So Battery Benson, Battery Brannan, all of these are in the EchoThief library. But then there's the one that got away. So my mother-in-law used to be a park ranger. And I knew that underneath this sort of meadow, there was a giant cistern, a 2 million gallon cistern. It was impossible to get into. It's super dangerous. I mean, there's no way in or out except this one manhole and a wire ladder going down. There's about 15 minutes of oxygen and then... So, but my mother-in-law being a former park ranger did the old park ranger secret handshake with park ranger there. And before we knew it, he was getting the earth mover and moving the giant boulder that covers this. And we got to go down into this. Liz, you're not going to believe this. It's a 45-second reverb. 45-second
Holy smokes.
It's impossible. You can't talk in there because the you of 45 seconds ago is still talking. You can't have a conversation. My wife brought a flute and it sounded like 100 people were playing flutes.
Wow.
My father-in-law, who has one of these really deep resonant voices, you couldn't hear a word he was saying. It was just, it's amazing. One of my favorite composers, Pauline Oliveros, did a whole bunch of work there in the 70s and 80s. And this really informed her deep listening practice. And so I was delighted to get to go visit this place, but I wasn't able to capture it because at the time, my impulse response measurement system, I had it maxed out at 6 seconds because 6 seconds is a lot of reverb.
Right. You're like, well, I'm never going to need 6 seconds.
Oh, yeah. There's nothing else in my library that goes past 6 seconds. I mean, like find me a reverb that's longer than 6 seconds. I mean, even something like an underground parking garage that's completely enclosed is going to be like 4 or 5. So I had no way of actually capturing this, but it really, really inspired me to really take this whole thing to the next level. And then later that summer, Liz, have you ever heard of the Integratron?
No.
Oh,
but I like it.
Oh, you got to go. This place is magical. It's out in the Mojave in Joshua Tree. And okay, bear with me here. In the late 50s, early 60s, George Van Tassel says he was taken by aliens to the planet Venus, where they revealed to him how to build an Integratron, which was a method of, it's like a perpetual motion machine. Right. And so he started to build this thing, just like the aliens told him. It's a big dome. And inside the dome was where the perpetual motion machine would go. But he passed before he built it. And no one saw the plans. No one knows anything. But this whole thing is a parabolic dome. And just like you said, you can stand across the center from someone and whisper, and they can hear you clear as day. You can hear your own voice coming from behind you. And they do sound baths in there with these beautiful singing bowls that are just a couple hertz apart. So they make this crazy beating. This whoa, 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 whoa. And for anyone who likes sound, this is a bucket list place. This is one of the coolest things I've ever put in my ears. These sound baths, you hear completely different things with your two ears. Not, oh, it's a little bit different on this side than on this side. No, it's like your ears don't know each other. And
wow, that's great.
Yeah,
it is a great quote.
It is.
You're full of great quotes, dude.
It is one of the strangest places I've ever been. So that, I mean, I wasn't able to capture that and put this in my library. This is a sacred space. But it really, really just convinced me that reverberation is so much of our sonic experience. I once saw a video of a guy go in a big echo chamber and pop a balloon, and you hear the big, and then walk into an anechoic chamber and pop the same balloon as.
Wow.
And it really illustrates.
It doesn't even sound like a balloon.
Oh, yeah. Reverb is most of our sonic experience. I mean, if you think about it, sound is an illusion. We hear the same sound passing by us many, many times, bouncing back and forth throughout a space. And our brain groups these all together as one sound with a lot of reverb on it. But realistically, you're hearing just echoes very quickly of the same sound over and over and over again. And this is so much of the color of any sound. This is what makes the timbre. So it's my opinion that reverb is what gives sound so much of its color. And like you were saying about, finding these magical places to play music. Music doesn't sound the same in every place. We can't just make the same sound in our bedroom as we can make in a concert hall or in a giant reverberant cave. So much of being a modern musician, I try to impart this to my students, is being aware of how the space that you're in folds your sounds and presents them to the audience. And if you're not paying attention to this, you really aren't paying attention to how your sound is being delivered.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about that on the show. I remember, I think it was with Jason Lenning possibly, where the topic of, I think it was Jason, was the topic of composing some string stuff that was then going to be played in the theater to accompany the show, and learning that, oh, wait, I can't add the reverb because when it plays back at the show, it's going to add the reverb of the space. So it's really that quality of understanding exactly what your listening experience is going to be so that you know what you're going to do. And again, that goes back to that topic of, are we thinking about reverb in context of mixing, or are we thinking about it in context of performing? When you perform with the reverb, you bake it right into the sound.
And it becomes like a feedback loop, right? It informs how you play your next note. And as someone who's spent a lot of time in studios, I'm sure you've experienced the difference that people do in their performance of whether they're hearing reverb in their monitors or not, right?
Right. Well, and that's sort of like artificial reverbs, but also just if you hear room mics and compression, and you just hear sounds differently, you have a different experience in response to the sound when you're playing.
Oh yeah, drum kits in real life don't sound like they sound on recordings, and we wouldn't want them to. I mean, on recordings, we've squeezed them, we've amplified the room sound, we've really made everything pop in ways that it's just not the same in just in a venue.
Totally. Hey, rock stars, imagine sitting down at your DAW with 165 instruments and over 150,000 sounds to choose from. That's what Complete 15 from Native Instruments delivers, the most powerful creative tool in your studio. Inside, you'll find Contact 8 Massive X battery, and Guitar Rig 7 Pro, giving you everything you need to create in any genre. Plus, you'll get inspiring sampled instruments like upright bass and electric keys, along with endless expansions to keep your sound fresh. Whether you're producing hip-hop, scoring films, or creating EDM bangers, Complete 15 has you covered. Pair that with Native Instruments control keyboard and machine hardware, and you get next-level integration that makes music creation fast, fun, and seamless. Go to nativeinstruments.com and use the code ROCK10 for 10% off. Howdy, Rockstars. We're back now for the jam session, aka the second half of the show. My guest today is Dr. Chris Warren, joining us from San Diego.
San Diego State University.
State University, yeah. In the what's the name of the studio that you're in there too?
So right now, here I'm just in my office, but right next door we have the Sound Lab, which is our facility for reverb research. And
awesome.
Let me tell you, I can bring a student into this place. They can take out their saxophone or whatever instrument and play into a controllable reverb. We can take them through a world of different spaces and let them hear how their instrument reacts to all these spaces and how they can react back.
All right, now you're getting into cool territory. And that was one I sort of thought of when I was thinking about what you're doing with the reverbs, and it sounds like you're saying that. So I think we typically think about creating an impulse reverb, and then we might think, okay, we're putting it as a plug-in, we're taking our mic in our DAW, we're going through that plug-in, and then what comes back to us in the headphones sounds like it's got reverb on it. But it occurred to me but you still have to put headphones on and play through a mic. And it occurred to me to ask you whether there was a way to do something where the sound is sort of coming back to you live in real time in an immersive speaker arrangement where you don't even have to, you can feel like you're in a space, not in a studio, hearing what a space would do to your microphone. Does that make sense?
Exactly. So there are no headphones in this facility. This is just open air. There's a mic array hanging from the ceiling that picks up sound. I've created this feedback suppression system because there are so many microphones and so many speakers that it could just be a howling mess if we didn't do this. But basically, this is just like augmented reality for sound. So you can take whatever sounds you're making and in real time put them through these spaces. And so it's not just the EchoThief spaces, but all sorts of unusual derivatives from that. Like, for example, we have a minute-long reverb. This is inspired by the 45-second reverb in the cistern at Fort Worden.
Wow.
And so making a minute-long reverb means you have to think completely differently about how you're going to play music. There are no passing tones. Everything is very enduring. And so you can take a monophonic instrument like a flute or something like that and start building chords. You can make a whole choir out of just your own voice in real time.
Wow.
And so you can make all these beautiful long drones. Now, obviously, you can't play bebop in this thing. Anything quick is lost.
You can play, what you can play in it is okay, enough, Lidge.
Oh, it's wonderful. You can make all sorts of, like, it really points to the texture of sound because you can take whatever sounds your mouth makes and start building textures. So my students and I will be in here and we'll just start like building, how about a little on top?
So you can do this in your simulator. You've got the cistern.
So
That's amazing.
We build these, and the moment we find something we like, we just drop a marker, and we can freeze that, and then it's really easy to drop that into a synthesizer, into a sampler, and turn that into a performative thing. So we can build textures on the fly out of any sounds we want. Jingle bells, vibra slaps, anything.
That's cool. That's cool. And you had mentioned also that you had a special way of capturing outdoor sounds that you had your backpack and your stuff with you. But we didn't really get a chance to ask you, like, what is it? Is it something that you can kind of roughly explain to us how you're able to capture impulse responses in noisy spaces?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, the classical ways of doing this beyond a balloon pop are things like a swept sine, which, an impulse actually has all frequencies in equal amounts of pure perfect impulse. And so sweeping a sine wave gets you the same thing of walking through all the frequencies sequentially instead of all at the same time. And so that's a great way for taking impulse responses, but it still can be easily corrupted by noise if there's enough noise in the space. It works great for making high resolution things in quiet spaces, but it falls apart outdoors pretty quickly.
It's actually the first time I learned about that was from David Blackmer at Earthworks Microphones. He explained that he wanted to make the greatest speaker, and in order to make the greatest speaker, he first had to make what he thought was the most accurate microphone. But then in order to actually make the most accurate microphone, he had to create an anechoic chamber in an old walk-in refrigerator and create an impulse that was so quick that it wouldn't carry over into the measurement. I guess that's one way to think about it. And so he made lightning bolt sparks.
Yeah, spark gaps are a great way to do this physically.
Gaps. Yeah.
So my way is built upon, look out. The mathematics of Swiss information theorist Marcel Golay, who is probably best known for doing a whole bunch of the analytic work behind the comms for the Apollo missions. And he did a lot of study of this thing called complementary sequences, which the basic idea behind this is you have two sequences, and each thing just kind of sounds like static. And you have your A sequence and the B sequence. And you send the A sequence into a room, get it back. B sequence into the room, get it back. You convolve the A and the A response, the B and the B response, add them together, you get a giant impulse response. And the utility of this is that you can stretch this in time as long as you want. So I have about a 30-second version of this, which takes enough, puts enough energy into the space slowly that it will completely be way above any energy that could exist in the space. The idea being that this basically makes sure that we have a really, really good signal-to-noise ratio. And for indoor things, a 30-minute or a 30-second one works just fine. For outdoor things, I use something that's maybe 5 or 10 minutes. And I kind of got the idea from this from a Photoshop tutorial, believe it or not. I stumbled upon this Photoshop tutorial that was like how to take a photo of a place that's full of people when you don't want the people in the photo. Like it had some like historic fountain that someone wanted to take a photo of, but there were always going to be people in front of it. Right. And so the idea is you put your camera on a tripod so that it's stable, and you take a photo, wait 10 seconds, take a photo, wait 10 seconds, do this a bunch of times, drop them all into Photoshop aligned, and take a big average of all of them. All the things that are the same from frame to frame, like the architecture, persist. All of the things
that makes sense.
The people go away. And so this is basically the same idea in the audio domain. And so
it's like the reverse of how do you hide an elephant? You put them in a herd of elephants.
So in my backpack, I have a tripod with a little recorder on it, and another tripod with a speaker on it, and a cable that connects these that is about 4 meters long. And I set these up, run this thing, and after 5 minutes, I can put it back in my backpack and be on my way. The tricky thing with taking impulse responses is the space is immutable. like the locations. So you basically have to use your ears to really tune in on exactly where you want to be locating the listener, because wherever that microphone is, that's it.
And the microphone is going to where your ear would be, but then also the speaker is going to where the sound might want to be generated, right? Does that make sense? It's like
where the musician
it's like
is.
you're the microphone is you. Where do you want to listen? And then where are we going to put the flute player? And I like that sound a lot, or something. You know?
Precisely.
So and you bring the 4 meter cable is the limit of what you can do with that setup. Are there times where you wish you could really separate the two things by a great distance?
Oh yeah. Lately, the one that I've been working on is in Balboa Park, the big central park here in San Diego. There's the Spreckles Organ Pavilion, which is this big sort of semicircle pavilion that has a giant pipe organ in it. And the whole building is very reflective. And so for this one, I had, I think, a 50-meter cable because I had to get really, really far back to get to the perfect space. My buddy Raul, who works there as the organist, was my ears for this, because he knows this space better than anyone else. And he's like, oh, here is where you want to listen. And of course, we know where the music's coming from because it's where the pipe organ is. So we put a speaker where the pipe organ is, and then run this long cable and find the spot and set this up and capture this recording.
It's a great example of when people talk about, like, the sound of drums is not close mics, the sound of drums is the room mics. You know, it's like, where do you want to be to hear that? I mean, nobody puts their ear right up to the well, somebody probably has, probably the
once,
you know, Quasimodo put his ear right up to the pipe coming out of the organ. But the you know, you would sit way back, you know, to hear it properly. So that's cool. All right, sorry to interject. Continue on.
Oh no, just that the beauty of having something that is as high resolution as this is that even when the echoes are fairly faint, things that a balloon pop or a sine sweep could never even start to collect, you can still retrieve that impulse response. So in this case, we're in Balboa Park. We're right under a flight path. There's a highway that goes right next to this. This is never going to be a quiet space.
Right.
And so it wouldn't be possible with other means to really capture this impulse response. But we can do this with this method because it stretches that impulse in time so much that instead of making a very loud impulse, we just make a very long impulse and get the same idea.
That's wild. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I mean, because the noise elements are intermittent. They're never the same noise the whole time.
Exactly.
And if it was the same noise, it'd probably be even easier to get rid of. It just, if it was a sine wave, you just delete the sine wave or something, right?
Actually, this is my kryptonite. HVAC systems. Anything that has a very regular noise completely throws this whole thing off.
Okay.
So if there is something that is persistent throughout, it will appear in the impulse response. And I'm banking on there being no persistent noises. So like I tried to capture Zorro Gardens, which is this strange little former nudist colony. It's just this big bowl of rock in Balboa Park. But the HVAC system for the Science Museum is right next to it, and that makes it outside of what I can capture, unfortunately.
Science
Foiled again.
Science. I'm still trying to get Thomas Dolby to come join the show. That would be pretty cool. Rockstars, let us know if we should get him on here too. But the yeah, so that's interesting. And I remember you would hear things like that in noise reduction software sometimes too, that consistent noise, I believe, is easier to, RX your way out of than intermittent noises. In a totally different use case, but it's interesting. So just something cool for us to be aware of. Look, when it comes to finishing your music, nothing compares to iZotope Ozone 12. This is a complete mixing and mastering suite of tools with 20 pro modules to shape your sound. You'll find the new bass control for a tight, powerful low end, new unlimiter to restore life to overcompressed tracks, and new stem EQ so you can rebalance vocals and drums and bass without even opening the mix session. And when it's time to make your music loud, the IRC5 Maximizer gives you loud, clean mixes and masters that still sound open and clear. Save time with AI-powered workflows that keep you in the driver's seat. Ozone 12 takes the guesswork out, but you stay in control so your music translates everywhere, from streaming to stage. Go to iZotope.com and use the code ROCK10 for 10% off. So that's how you kind of go and capture these. And it reminds me when I was, watching your video last night in preparation for this, I stumbled on another video of some British guys that were showing, I guess they called it the world's longest reverb. And I don't remember what it was. It was like a minute and a half or a minute at least, it was very long. And it was a giant empty oil underground oil, I guess you'd call it a cistern, right? And they had to slide. In Scotland? Maybe, yeah. Yeah, and it was part of the British Navy, and that's where they would store enormous quantities of oil. So they go in there and they just they fired a starting gun, and then you hear the reverb, but they said, we're going to turn the tail of the reverb microphone up so you can hear the end of it. And I couldn't help but notice when they turned the end up, they also turned up the noise floor. But I know a guy who would have been able to give us a pure reverb tail. So
yeah, so Inchindown, Scotland. I think I'm pronouncing it right. Yeah, that marine oil tanker. It's built into the bedrock. So that's the gold standard for long reverb. And they're like the place in Fort Worden. There's one way in and out. And I measured this, and I'm not gonna fit, so I'm out for that one. But apparently, it has a full 60-second reverb. Wild. Now, yeah. Here's where things go a little bit differently in my laboratory. So one thing that reverbs all have in common is that they resolve spectrally downwards. That is, the high end gets diffuse longer, quicker than the low end. Like if you're in a big boomy underground parking garage or something, you'll notice that there's a lot of reverb, but it tends to kind of resolve into a little rumble. Yeah, yeah. And the high end is lost.
Dub echo.
Yeah,
the dub echo gets murkier and cool sounding.
Yeah. And so musically, that means there's it's less available to you. And so something that I can do in my laboratory that physics can't support is I can make a minute-long reverb just like the one in Scotland, but one that is full frequency the entire time. So for the entire minute, you are hearing all of the treble, all of the bass, everything, not the slowly diminishing to just bass version.
So this is one of those examples where a digital version of something can do something that the analog world couldn't do.
Oh, absolutely. And even better than that, we can manipulate the reverb in real time. So we can be filtering it as we can go. We can make it into part of the performance. So often we'll be in there and, I've got a little mixer set up for this and a little control surface so that as we perform in there, I can be altering it. I can bring us into different spaces, but I can also change the spaces, make them shorter or longer in real time, start filtering them, do crazy Fourier transforms, and basically do things that we can't experience in the physical world, but that we can experience in the digital world.
And you can morph from space to space as well.
Absolutely.
Right?
And one of the trickiest parts about my job, I teach technology. And so I'm teaching technology to a lot of 20-somethings who are going to use technologies that I'll never see. Right. I'm teaching them how to use things, but much of what they'll use for their whole career hasn't been invented yet. And so it's always a challenge to be not just, teaching them the physics that is immutable, but also to be on the cutting edge of what is possible and what we can do with sound. And so a place like our sound lab lets us really make forays into what the next steps can be for digital sounds and where these things can take us artistically. I find that to be probably the most exciting thing about the whole place.
So let's jump right to this question. Speaking of artistically, so I believe you're an artist yourself, as you're saying, a musician.
You bet.
And you have a cool ambient song that we've included a link to. If you want to check it out, Rockstars, Omni Harmonium, You Belong to the Universe.
You bet.
And listening to it, it's really a journey to listen to it. It really takes you places. And my comment is, I would watch that movie.
Love it. Yeah, I wanted to use every single impulse response for every single place I'd ever captured in one piece of music and basically be an ambient journey through all of this.
Oh, wow.
So I have a duo with my wife, the other Dr. Warren, who is a woodwinds doubler. She plays all the clarinets, flutes, saxophones, etc. And so we take these acoustic sounds and along with some guitars that I play and put them through all of these spaces and transform them entirely and really make great use of the reverb as a compositional tool, as something that can take us to different places.
That's great. That's great. And then, it's a pretty long piece, right? Do you remember what the length was on it?
Just under 15 minutes.
Okay. So when you compose for something that's 15 minutes long, what do you want to say to those of us who are used to making pop songs in studios? How do we think about composition differently? I love to talk about this stuff too. How do you help us expand our thinking on what composition of music is?
So, 15 minutes is a big ask. That's asking for someone's attention for a long time. And this isn't really music that is going to have its full effect if you're doing it while you're working out or doing some other thing. Like, this is best experienced by putting on a pair of headphones and relaxing.
Kick back. Go find that echo bridge.
Exactly.
No, it's too noisy under there and there's too many friends.
I think it's really easy to say, wow, music, this is very long. But I think this particular sort of thing needs to be long because it really needs that time to build. And we don't get the payoff if this is a 2-minute pop song. This really needs time to take us to all these places. And if we visited these places in 2 minutes, it'd be a flip book. We really want a moment to sit in each place and really be able to hear the grandeur of what all these can do. And like I was saying before, using impulse responses and convolution reverb, it's so much more informationally dense than most reverb plugins that are merely smearing things in time. This tells you a lot about the space. It really gives you, each space itself tells a story. My students and I sometimes play Stump the Professor, where they'll use one of my reverbs in one of their pieces and say, okay, which one is it? Which one is it? And, it's on me to guess, oh, that's clearly Echo Bridge.
That's like drop the needle for reverb makers.
It's a special kind of nerdery.
That's pretty great. And then when you were thinking about composing something like that, did you start with the concept of which reverb do you want it? Like, in what order do I want to put these reverbs in the composition?
I like composing through exploration. For me, composition is an experiential thing. I like to compose with my ears. I like to be able to really soak in the location. And so I'm thinking a lot about what sounds are going to best demonstrate a place. Like, for example, if there's a very, very bright place, it's going to support flutes a lot better than one of the more irregular and quickly bassy sort of impulse responses. Like, for example, that Subway Cave lava tube is phenomenal on a cello, but is lost on a piccolo because all the particular formation of that, it has rough walls, it has a sand floor, it is shaped like a bubble dome with two long sort of arched hallways coming from it. So there are no parallel surfaces for big flat slapbacks, and all the high end gets quickly dissipated. So that's a very low, very resonant, rumbly reverb.
It kind of makes me think of all the times where, people maybe make a YouTube video and they demo reverbs or something, and it's the same little drum loop or something, and it's, check it out on this one, check it out. And then it's sometimes it's a little bit like that. You can discover something, but it's like, to your point, what's the point of that? It's like you just want to find a cool, inspiring space and then start composing into it, right?
Yeah, and I want to use these spaces to tell their own stories. I'm not merely looking for a demo of how a technology works, like the sort of easy A-Bing of taking the same thing and running it through a bunch of different reverbs. Like, yeah, that's great for...
Yeah, which one do you like?
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is great as a taste test, but it doesn't begin to tell each place's story. And each place rings a little bit differently. And with an instrument such as clarinet, like clarinet is such a great instrument for reverb because by itself, it doesn't sound like much. You take the clarinet and put it in the anechoic chamber, and it's a kind of dull instrument. But it just soaks up reverb like a sponge. It loves reverb. I mean, trumpet's the same way. Listen to it completely dry, and it's a little spiky.
Yeah, I've noticed like, if you have a room mic still open, if you have some mic still open and somebody's playing trumpet and they're far from the mic, it can sound pretty great on an overdub.
Oh, absolutely.
Although so often, we just stick a mic right up to it. But a lot of those examples are probably, trying to get an instrument to cut through a dense production or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I think it can be so helpful to be putting the reverb into the mix as you make it rather than as a final step. Because then it can really start informing the musicians and really get that feedback loop of musician hearing the reverb and responding to it as such. I mean... Okay,
so two questions to that. You complete your thought if you want. I'm ready to follow you.
Let's hear it.
Well, the first would be, I definitely want to ask you how we can start using this and do what you just explained. But then the other part of the question is, compositionally, obviously long reverbs are going to change the kind of music we're making. So does that mean we sort of don't think about this stuff if we're trying to do pop music, or can we still think about using these spaces if we're doing, rhythmic music and stuff that needs shorter times?
Oh, this stuff works great in pop music. I mean, this works great in all music. It is meant to just take these sounds and elevate them. There are certain styles of music that are more active. I use bebop as an example because it's the endless flurry of notes that if you put that in an exceptionally long reverb, then you lose the crispness.
You get a slurry of notes.
Yeah, which is probably not what the intention of the musicians is that right there. Right. But all music incorporates reverb. I can't think of a reverb-free kind of music. In fact, when I was first doing this, before I had this laboratory set up, and I needed anechoic samples to be able to test the reverb, it's hard to find. all music has reverb to some degree because all sound has reverb to some degree. Like this is part of our experience of sound. And so I think that a great way to think about something like this EchoThief library is here's an opportunity to put a lot of colors on your sounds, to try out different shades that you can add to really bring out the beauty in each of these sounds.
Right.
Just flipping through the different reverbs, and auditioning them, as you were mentioning with the drum loop, it can be great when mixing to like, not that one, not that. Oh, wow, it sounds great with that one. And, so I tried to make a library that has a lot of variety, from long reverbs to short reverbs. I mean, that submarine reverb is, I think, a quarter of a second. It's like almost nothing and it's done.
Right, so it might be cool on drums.
Yeah. And you're going to want a little reverb on everything to really bring the whole thing together. And I find it really interesting to... we talk a lot about in mixing, building a soundstage, right? And, making the panorama and trying to make everything sound like it's in the same room. And there's a lot of wonder to that. And I totally love that. But I also think that there's a lot of coolness of kind of clashing two reverbs against each other. When this instrument is in this very stuffy place and this instrument is in this very open space, and just kind of seeing how they are in dialogue with one another.
Yeah. We had a professor at MTSU who would say, also Chris, who would say, don't put me in too many spaces. If you put me in too many spaces, I get confused. That was a way of thinking about it.
And if you're looking for unity, if you're trying to make the illusion of this is, 5 band members in a space together jamming, then you're going to want to use a very similar reverb or probably the same reverb on everything to give it that unity, because they're all in that same room.
And it's a cool way for us to just a reminder for us, ways to think about it in those contexts. Like, there's not right and wrong. There's just like these will have these effects. Put everybody together. Maybe these are all overdubs that were done separately, and they need to be brought back together. The single space can do that. Maybe these are things that you want to create more of a sense of contrast, like you said, artistic contrast, and mix and match. Are you ready to launch your career in the audio or entertainment business? SAE Institute Nashville, right here in the heart of Music Row, offers hands-on programs to prepare you for the industry. From studio production and live sound to audio for film and a whole lot more. You'll learn by doing, working with professional-grade gear alongside experienced industry pros. If you're more into the business side of entertainment, SAE's Entertainment Business Program teaches essential basics like contracts and promotion to help you navigate the industry. With diploma, associate, or bachelor's degrees, there's a path for everyone. Plus, Career Services supports graduates as they take the next step. Want to see it for yourself? Immerse yourself in Nashville's exciting music scene and book a tour today at nashville.sae.edu or call 615-244-5848. Well, so tell us a little bit about how we can start using them. So if we want to if we're like, all right, I want to go check out EchoThief now, and I use Logic or something, like or Pro Tools, what would we do next?
All right. So when you download the EchoThief library, it's just a bunch of audio recordings. It just sounds like a bunch of in different spaces. It's, by itself, it's a bunch of little pops. But each of these impulse responses can be fed into a convolution reverb. And so every DAW has its own different convolution reverb. In Logic, it's Space Designer. In Ableton, it's Convolution Reverb Pro. I'm blanking on the name of the Pro Tools one, but basically if you just look up...
Space or something like that?
Yeah, there it is.
Spaces.
These can all take external impulse responses, and so you just drop the EchoThief library into there, and you're ready to go. And,
right, and Altiverb was one of the original or early ones that did that, right?
Oh yeah, and they sound great. They have a bunch of great spaces.
Yeah. And those, so essentially you get the plugin going, Rockstar's on the track, and then it will give you the option to, like loading a preset, you can go find this impulse and load it in. And
Yeah,
then I
and most of
guess
the magic is in
probably,
the wet dry knob, right? Is
right,
just
right.
finding that beautiful proportion. Now, some convolution engines will let you stretch the impulse response to change the duration of it. Some will let you EQ it a little bit. So there are definitely ways to sort of parameterize this thing. But the basic idea is, you want to match the space to the instrument. Because
And how crucial is the latency setting of your DAW setup for this to feel good to perform into?
So one of the beauties of reverb is latency, right? Like it's time passing. And so a little bit of latency is not necessarily a deal killer. Fortunately, all of the modern convolution engines have zero latency built in. Even using a Fourier transform, they make the first frame of that as a FIR filter, so that there's absolutely no latency.
Duh, that's what I was going to say.
Right? Finite impulse response.
I mean, who doesn't know that? Come on, guys.
My bad. Hey, if you want to have real fun with this, the beauty of convolution is you can throw anything in there as an impulse response. It's meant to use, these impulse responses, but you can, put your voice saying a word, and that becomes the reverb for the whole track. You can put the instrument itself in there, or you can take impulse response library and turn it backwards, and you get all these crazy, backwards reverb effects.
That's cool. I know that Isotope has the Trash 2, I think is the version. It's got distortion in it, but they've added a convolution section too, and it's got a nice XY pad on there, so you can actually load up 4 convolution reverbs, and then you can kind of XY to sweep between them. So I wonder if you can load your own. I haven't checked that yet. I know that comes with a bunch, but I don't know if you've tried that for loading.
I haven't, but my students and I, we built this reverb engine that has 100 of these and basically a fader for each, so that you can bring up all these reverbs independently and bring up different amounts of different reverbs to try to kind of make your own sort of hybrid of all of these together.
Have you thought about having I'm just imagining the art installation space, like an actual room where you're having a conversation in one corner and it's a totally different sound for you guys. And then you walk to the other corner and all of a sudden it's a giant echoey space. I don't know how doable that is, but that sure would be a lot of fun. I bet everybody would think that was cool.
I like the sound of that. Over at the
maybe
Museum
that's a project for us, Chris.
We did something kind of similar at the Museum of Making Music. We made an early version of what this lab does with the microphone array and the speakers around the perimeter. And so we made a small room and filled it with percussion because that's such an easy way to show off reverb. Plus, it's a very, congas and bongos and things like that are very accessible instruments that most people feel fairly comfortable walking up to and just trying out in a way that, they might not with a violin. And so what we did is we project these immersive images on the walls so you can see the place that you're in, and just every, I think, 30 seconds, switched it to a new spot. And, it's not something that the physical world brings us, right? Like, how often have you been sitting stationary and all of a sudden the reverb around you changes? So it really points to just how much that reverb is the color of the sounds that we hear.
Now, in your immersive studio there with the verbs, simulation, is that something that is also recordable? So you can perform and have an experience, but then actually play that back later?
Oh, yeah. So we built all of this to run also multi-channel into Ableton. I'm a huge Ableton freak. And so basically from the moment you walk into the laboratory until the moment you walk out. The whole thing is being multi-tracked and can be reproduced at any time. And so this really gives us an opportunity to let students take this home with them and relive it and really be able to analyze it.
Now, how would they relive it back at home? Would it be just a binaural rendering in headphones or something like that?
Stereo mixdowns, yeah, binaural. Or we have a few 5.1 mix rooms here at San Diego State that students can do a sort of like not quite as immersive, but still very quite immersive.
Right, right.
I mean, the difference being like in the lab, we have overhead speakers, 4 of them, and 8 in a ring at ear level plus a sub. So we have like full overhead immersion that 5.1 can't do, but they can still get the basic idea of it with 5.1.
Okay, cool. How would you say that like capturing and using these real acoustic spaces creates an emotional impact in music? Or sound design, or even games and art?
I always kind of envision these reverbs as sort of like watercolors. They're translucent. You're not changing an image entirely. You can still see the image below them, but you're adding a layer of color on top of them. And so many years ago, my wife and I did a radio show here on KPBS called Incoming, which was a storytelling show. It's the stories of the men and women of America's armed services and their return to civilian life and the struggles that they faced in this. And this is written by these people and spoken by the authors themselves. Mm-hmm. And so there are some very, very emotional stories as people are talking about divorce and suicidal ideation and all sorts of like real struggles that they'd had to reincorporate into civilian society. And we wanted to do some very florid underscoring for this that was start to finish, not the typical like this is American life, talk, 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 little musical bumper, talk, 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 talk. We wanted something that is really emotional music throughout that mm-hmm. sort of elevates the story and really lets people feel it even more emotionally than the words themselves. And so we really made deep use of this reverb to give a sense of depth to all this and a sense of space and lingering sound as people are telling these stories of things that had happened. So much of these are flashbacks to former times. And we could use these really syrupy reverbs to, give this dreamlike sense to things and make things sound a little surreal. And then when people were talking about, really having emotional struggles, we could bring it in a little bit closer. And
yeah.
I find it to be compositionally like one of the best tools in making audio collage because it really gives you that depth. Oh, sorry, I keep bumping that mic.
It's all right. It's all right.
Talking with my hands too much.
I got a special IR impulse response technique that'll get rid of it in the mix. That's cool. And on the lighter side of that topic, also tell us about Wolfenstein 2.
Oh,
if we're on the subject of the battlefield in music.
So impulse responses are really useful in video games, especially big open world video games like Days Gone, for example, where you can wander around in this whole huge map. In order to make these experiences so much more immersive, they add the reverb to really bolster what you're seeing on the screen. So like in Days Gone, when you go under a bridge, that's Echo Bridge. When you go into an abandoned building, it's Battery Brannon over in the Olympic Peninsula. And these are all generated on the fly because it's an open world and the authors can't really know where people are going when. It's not a lazy river. It's not taking you exactly down a single garden path.
Right. Small world. Disney.
The idea here is that wherever you go, there's going to be the reverb of that place. And so these impulse responses were actually licensed by these companies to be able to add that richness in real time so that it really becomes part of the experience. It's not just a prepackaged thing.
So did you have to go get impulse responses of particular places that matched the environments in the game?
Oh, no, they just licensed the whole library. I think I talked to them once.
Okay, it's cool. That's still fun, man. Also, when you were talking about going to all these exotic places, it reminded me there's another guest that's been on the show back on episode 167, Nikolai Georgiev, who I think last time I saw him at NAMM, actually, he was at the Antelope booth. But he had traveled around Eastern Europe doing impulse responses. And apparently he discovered there were 8-mile long Soviet tunnels, I think it's something like that.
Ooh, talk to me.
That go through the mountains in Bulgaria. So he got a chance to go, and I can connect you guys too if you want.
Please.
But he got a chance to go and create all these impulse reverbs in those spaces, and probably still knows where they are if you need to go use a more
absolutely.
advanced IR technique.
Every single impulse response in my library is there because someone told me about it. Someone dropped a pin on a Google map and sent it to me and said, this is the spot. When I've been on tour, I'm in a new city, I'll hop on the subreddit for that city and say, hey, musicians, lend me your ears. What are the places I should go to? And musicians are a generous bunch. They'll say, oh, you got to check out this. You got to check out that. You got to check out this. When I was in San Francisco, there's in Golden Gate Park, there's this beautiful pedestrian underpass that is just so incredibly reverberant that there was a line of musicians outside it waiting for their chance to practice in there.
Wow.
There's a guy playing Eruption on a keytar. And that was clearly one of the magical spots that everyone knew about and were generous enough to tell me. So, when I was in Wisconsin, people told me, oh, you got to check out, the very last covered bridge in all of Wisconsin is over here in Cedarburg, and you should go take a listen to this. And sure enough, that covered bridge, it's basically like a long tube that's made out of very, very old wood that's really rough saw and irregular, and it's so
got
much
a sound, right?
Yeah, it's like a cave, but much, much warmer because of all the wood. It doesn't have the like brittleness. And so all these places are from people who are in the know, sending me an email, cwarren@sdsu.edu. Hint, hint.
Right on. Do you ever imagine, like in The Incredible Journey or whatever, where they get shrunken down and go inside the human body, like the teeny tiny spaces? Have you ever been curious about, it actually reminds me when I was, a student, and I think I had just come up from school to Nashville and I was going to the AES meetings. This is back when they first were presenting us, hey, we got this new thing. It's called an MP3. Can you tell the difference? And they're playing it for us. But there was an article in the AES journal about analog ways that they would shoot out architectural spaces. So if they had a theater, they would make a scale model of the theater, and they would use a tweeter horn, and they would play a high frequency into it, and then they would measure that, and then they'd just drop the speed on that, lower it way down in speed, and that would give them the equivalent of having shot out this full-size theater that they hadn't built yet. And I thought that was very clever. And it's this kind of like scale model way of thinking about stuff. Have you considered whether there are ways to capture reverbs of teeny tiny spaces and like sort of scale model them back into useful stuff? You're talking about stretching things out in time.
Yeah. I've mainly gone the other direction of taking places and trying to make them virtually larger.
Right.
But yeah, if you bump up the sample rate, you could absolutely do that.
So wait, so I think I was suggesting what you said you've done, but you're saying you can of course take the giant space and make it sound like a smaller space by increasing the sample rate on it. But how would you even shoot out and get an impulse response of a teeny tiny, like the inside of an acorn shell? Not the inside where there's no room left, but the inside of an acorn shell. Don't you want to do an impulse response between two atoms one day? In a an electron microscope?
I think the closest I've done to that is trying to take some impulse responses underwater with hydrophones, acknowledging that the speed of sound underwater is definitely a lot quicker.
Right.
So what is it, about a factor of 4 or something like that? I took an impulse response of a, fairly small swimming pool, but it sounded like it was a sink. And I tried taking an impulse response down at La Jolla Shores in some of the deep water canyons. But yeah, the sound travels so damn fast.
Are you recording your own music or other people's music in your studio, but you're having trouble figuring out how to get your mixes to sound great? Do they sound weak and distant or lack punch and clarity? Well, I've got a gift for you to help you take your mixes from sounding like basement demos to sounding a lot more like professional mixes. And it's my free course called Mix Master Bundle. This course will show you how to get pro-sounding mixes from your home studio with free and stock plugins in Pro Tools. And the best part is, these mixing techniques will work for you in any DAW, whether you're in Logic, Cubase, PreSonus Studio One, Reaper, or anything you can think of. Are you ready to make your best record ever? Then go to mixmasterbundle.com to get started for free now, and you can find the clickable link in the show notes of this episode. What about when we think about sounds like, you remember in the original Star Wars for the laser guns? They went and they just hit high tension wires.
Mm-hmm.
They banged on them and you get that. And, I think our imagination thinks of that as like, oh, it'd be cool to capture that. But then as I even say that out loud, I'm like, wait, it's not really a reverb on something else, is it? Can we think outside the box in terms of impulse response captures? Are there ways to capture things like that?
So all you need to capture an impulse response is an impulse and a method of recording. So I highly encourage anyone to, who has 2 hands and a recording device to go clap and see what you can learn about the spaces around you. It won't necessarily be the cleanest impulse response, but boy, is it a great way to start. And, I think that the power of convolution has barely been harnessed. It is a non-intuitive process that we're just scratching the surface of what that can do with sound. Fourier transforms are magical, and doing Fourier transforms and then spectral multiplication, which is what convolution is like such a powerful way of changing sounds. But because the result for different things can be a little tricky to guess in advance, we mostly limit convolution to convolving a constant stream, like music, with a single thing, like an impulse response. But putting 2 streams together, you can get all sorts of amazing experimental sounds. And so I think that looking to the future, we're going to see a lot of really cool audio effects as people start to explore and understand how to predict what's going to come out the other side and make it into something that is musically useful as a sound transformer.
So when you said convolving 2 streams, you mean instead of an impulse response and a reverb, you might actually be taking an instrument and another instrument and convolving them together.
Exactly.
Playing 2 notes, and now you get a new result.
Like for example, if instead of an impulse response, you use a convolution reverb and drop in, say, a big, deep, low note on a piano, you're imparting all of the sound of that piano, the piano-ness, the tight strings, the hammer, all of that gets basically, you're skinning your sound with that other timbre. And so this becomes tricky when you're putting two streams together because, like say a lot of it becomes multiplying by zero, because if there's no energy in one of them at a frequency, there will be no energy in the result at that frequency. So it's really easy to get a bunch of unpredictable nulls. But I highly encourage people to use a convolution plugin wrong. The history of music is musicians taking the tools that have been invented for them and using them in messed up ways that the inventors never intended. No one ever thought a guitar would be distorted. No one ever thought you'd touch a turntable and wicka wicka with it. So musicians are inherently experimenters. It's what we do, right? So think about what things you can drop into a convolution engine in order to make different sonic alchemy here. It's really such a cool thing that we use for a tiny, tiny bit of what's actually available there.
Well, I think it's because we're so often, many of us on our show, of course, we're often finding ourselves in, engineer mixer brain. We're like applying some stuff to, mix, and what you're describing is a little bit more, that can apply to mixing, absolutely, but it's a little bit more of the sound designer brain. It's like the slow yourself down a bit, slow down, take a little time to just create some sounds, and then maybe, cleverly have a personal way of archiving them so you can revisit them. Because it's a little bit like mixing up the ingredients and then coming back later to enjoy the meal. Sometimes, if you have to put on your work helmet and then come back and put on your play helmet or whatever.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, obviously when we're trying to get a mix done under a deadline, there's not a lot of time left for experimentation. That experimentation has to happen before to inform how we operate. But I encourage everyone who is going to mix music at any level to not just have your own presets and ready-mades, but have your own library of impulse responses, whether it's grabbed from mine or others or things you made yourself, that are the ones that you've experimented with and you know them well, just like you know your other pieces of gear. You know that, that's the reverb that I like for drums. That's the reverb that I like for guitars. And experimenting is the only way to really come to know this.
Yeah, totally. All right, so last couple of questions. This one is just, where would you, if you could go shoot out a convolution reverb, do an impulse response anywhere in the universe, what are some places that you've thought of you'd like to try and do that?
There are some really giant cave systems that I have yet to explore that I would love to. As far as man-made things, man, I've been trying, but I have so far not been able to get permission. Just north of here along the coast in San Onofre is the San Onofre Nuclear Generating Station.
And the huge cooling tower or something like that?
This one is two domes that predate that design, or maybe not, I'm not sure. But it's two giant concrete domes. And this whole thing has been decommissioned. It's offline. It's never coming back. And I've been begging them to get in there to take a beautiful impulse response before they knock these things down. But so far, no luck.
Oh, man.
However,
well, I was watching some video about SpaceX where I guess Elon Musk was presenting the new space city or something in Texas, and they had built, or they're about to build, this enormous, like the biggest structure, he called it. It's a giant production facility where they can produce the Starship rockets, 1,000 a year or something. So it sounds like a lot of rockets.
NASA Ames.
I wonder if that'll have a cool sound.
My list. I went to a rave there once, and it was amazing sound.
That sounds great.
And I did recently get one of my white whales, which was the Maparium in Boston. You might know about
that's
this.
a great one. Yeah, right across it's I forgot what church it is. It's across from Berkeley or the Symphony
it's the
Hall
Christian
or something.
Science church there.
That's what it
is.
Yeah.
30-foot glass globe with a bridge that you walk across the center. And so you're inside a glass sphere. And
of the Earth, right?
Yeah, right? Of the Earth in 1992 or something.
Right.
The map is a little out of date. But I had to beg for, I think, 2 years before they let me into that place. And they didn't let me take any photos. I don't have any documentation other than the impulse responses themselves, but they're freaky. I mean, the amount that the left and right ear are completely separate things is pretty intense.
So when your microphone is picking up stereo or ambisonic or something like that for your return of the impulse response?
Yes, I've done most of these in stereo, and recently I've started using the Rode ambisonic mic to capture some of these in ambisonics. I haven't released any of these yet. The ambisonic ones are really difficult to normalize. Oh my God, that is a whole can of worms. But considering that ambisonics would allow us to change, we can't change the location of the listener, but we'd be able to change the orientation of the listener, which is hugely useful in augmented reality.
Right. Fascinating. There was a place, I did a record back in early 2000s. I'm just this is all conjuring up memories of old things. So firstly, do you remember the before we had Convolution plugins we could use in our DAW, there was that little app that came along. It was called like SH283 or something like that. I forgot what it was called. It was just a little app, it was a free app on Mac, and you could just put two sounds, load them in, and convolve them, and then it would spit
you're talking about
Sound
Hack, Tom Erb.
Sound Hack, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, my old professor.
Yep. That was, right on. Cool, man. That was a fun one to mess around with for a while,
Absolutely.
And it was like, to your point, it's like you didn't know what you were going to get, so you just try some stuff and be like, that's cool.
Oh, yeah. That was like open-ended convolution that, wasn't pointing towards a specific result like a convolution reverb, but is much more just, hey, what happens with, stream A meets stream B?
It might still exist. I don't know if it's still out there, and you can check it out, Rockstars. And then the other thing that this reminds me of is early 2000s, there was an art installation in Canada called the Xylophone. And it was a grain silo up there, way up in the Yukon or something like that. And you would, they had a website, so you could upload a sound and then they would play it through this and re-record it. It had a built-in 20-second reverb in the space. And then a little later, you could go download your file. And so I was mixing a record for Roscoe Gordon, and he had this one long note in the bridge. It's a song called Cheese and Crackers. And he goes, cheese, and he sings it out really long. And I was like, I got to upload it. So I uploaded that and like downloaded the reverb and mixed it into the song. And by the time the mix was done, it's like, I'm the only one who can really hear any of it in there. But I had this wonderful vision of like, it's the dead of winter and there's some moose up there wandering along and they just hear this, 20-second cheese coming out of a grain silo. What the hell is that, All right. So closing question for you is, and I'm surprised that you didn't say you wanted to go to Mars and, get a convolution reverb there or something
Atmosphere
like that.
There sucks.
There you go. Right. There's not going to be a lot of reverb. So then the closing questions I like to ask our guests on the show. It's a hypothetical question, but we're going to take the Wayback Studio machine and go back in time. And what's the sound of a backward impulse response? How does that sound?
Oh, yeah.
Something like that?
Whole lot of love.
Whole lot of love. Okay, yeah. So you go back in time and you find young Chris and you say, listen, Chris, put down that thing you're holding under the bridge with your friends, that flute. I mean, the clarinet and listen to me for a sec. Here's the single most important thing you need to know to be a rock star of the studio yourself one day. What advice do you feel like you'd like to go back and give yourself after years of doing this, if you could?
Math and music can be the exact same thing. To think that there are two different things that don't touch makes no sense. All this stuff you're learning about trigonometry is going to be so damn useful going forward. Trigonometry is the most poorly named mathematics.
What would you
Naming
call
it
it?
after triangles? Oh, no. You're pointing at the moon here. The triangle is just how you measure the circles. And what is a sine wave but an unwrapped circle? So trigonometry and mathematics can be so informative in making music in ways that you can't understand until you dive deep into it.
So we finally know what to do with those sines and cosines and tangents and all that stuff. Well, groovy, man. Well, dude, thanks so much for joining us on the show. Please let the rock stars know where they could find you and learn more about this if they want to go download EchoThief and get started on it. Where should they go?
EchoThief.com. You can download the whole thing for free right now. By the time this is posted, there will be a huge update with a bunch of amazing new spaces.
Right on. Thank you so much for joining me on the show, Chris. It was a pleasure. And thanks for getting that beautiful SM7 set up so that we could hear your voice sounding so awesome. It's a great looking little studio office space you got there too. And Rockstars, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, which I did, make sure to please like this video and subscribe to the channel. And, drop a comment in too, even if you're just saying you enjoyed the episode, because that really, really helps the channel. It's going to help us be able to bring on more super cool guests like Dr. Chris Warren. And thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Chris, man, I look forward to meeting you in the studio. I'll have to maybe connect you with a couple of people we talked about too.
Come on out to San Diego. Come on out.
I'd love it, man. I hear you got some good surfing out there too, right?
Absolutely.
Awesome, dude. Thanks for watching, dude. Cheers.
Thanks, Liz.
Thanks so much for listening to Recording Studio Rockstars. If you enjoyed the show and want to help make it better, then please share this episode with your friends on social media and leave a rating and review on iTunes to help the podcast reach more rock stars like yourself. You can click directly over to iTunes or go to rsrockstars.com/review for an easy explanation. And remember to hit the subscribe button to keep up with weekly episodes. And if you're ready to make your best record ever now, then head over to Recording Studio Rockstars Academy, where you can start with my free course at mixmasterbundle.com. Thanks so much for listening, and thanks for being a rock star. I'm Lid Shaw, and this is Recording Studio Rockstars. Now, go make great music. Recording Studio Rockstars would like to give a big thank you to our fantastic sponsors who help make this episode possible. iZotope, Native Instruments, Atom Audio, SAE Institute, Spectra 1964, and Picker. And remember to take advantage of our special coupon code ROCK10 for 10% off at iZotope.com and nativeinstruments.com for any plugin purchase. Don't forget, you can start mixing right now with my free course, Mixmaster Bundle. You'll find the link in the show notes below. And if you enjoyed Recording Studio Rockstars, please check out our sponsors also in those links in the show notes. These are all things I highly recommend for your studio. They are going to help you make your best record ever. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this, it's a great way to help support the show, and I really appreciate it, and I thank you as well. I'd also like to thank our fantastic team here at Recording Studio Rockstars: Vlad Weselchenko, Jeffrey Simmons, and Max Young. Thank you so much for watching and listening, Rockstars, and we'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.